So good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar where we'll be discussing about well-being in the age of AI. I'm Stuart Parker. I'm a global well-being lead here at the Access Group, and I'm thrilled to be hosting today's conversation. We're here to really explore how artificial intelligence is shaping the world of well-being, and especially within the workplace, and what what's working, what's changing, how are organizations harnessing AI to support the well-being of their people. And today I'm joined by two fantastic guests. We've got Dr. Phil Parker, renowned health and wellbeing expert, and I'm also joined by Martin Lewis from Aquavista, one of our valued customers, who have been on a journey. And I'm really excited to hear about this, about how you've been using AI within your wellbeing strategy. So I'm really, really glad you're both joined me today to have this conversation. So thank you. So I'm going to dive right in, just so I can hear more from you than from myself, really. So let's get started and sort of understanding about, what does well-being mean in the workplace? Maybe Dr. Phil, if we could start with you.
Yeah, great. Well, thanks for the introduction, Stu. So, well-being in the workplace. Well-being generally means taking care of how you are, how you're getting on, both in terms of your physical health and, of course, your mental, emotional, psychological well-being. So, in the workplace, it's making sure that people are being taken care of because it's important that people are well, but also it's great for the bottom line. There are massive stats about how if you take care of your workplace environment and the people and really care about them, they work better for you. There's less absenteeism. There's less what's called presenteeism, which is where people are there but not really present because they're burning out quietly in the background. So on every level, it's something that we really, really need to attend to.
Yeah, I completely agree. And what about you, Martin? What's your perspective on well-being in the workplace?
It encompasses all sorts of things. I mean, I'm a very great believer in whole person, abilities, and that even in the workplace, you bring some of life outside of the workplace in, and so it's important to enable people to feel valued and to feel comfortable in their work. And if we need to provide them with AI tools and equipment to help with that, it's great. I've been talking to colleagues recently about how it's helping reduce work stress in terms of creating training packages or helping present emails, particularly with people that are dyslexic and have other neurodiverse conditions. So, yeah, vital to keep promoting uh, well-being in the workplace.
Absolutely, and I couldn't agree more with what both of you have said. So, to either what both of you really. So, what are the most common challenges that organizations are facing when well-being and supporting employee well-being? What are those challenges? That's, Dr. Phil, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. So I think it's there are the usual challenges that we've always seen, which is, people feel there's more work to do than there are people to do it. They don't feel valued. They feel they're overworking. Those are common things. But there's an extra piece to this which is developing now, which is the AI piece, which is a kind of interesting double-edged sword in that on one level, it promises amazing things, how productive you can be, how the repetitive tasks that we get trapped into can be taken over by these wonderful machines that are going to solve all our problems. But we also know that AI is a cause of stress because AI and the algorithms are what drive all the social media stuff, trying to get our attention because it's an attention economy. They're really interested. And I think UNESCO said this, or the APA, American Psychological Association, said, the problem with these AI machines that are driving the algorithms is they're not interested in well-being at all. They're interested in engagement. And the way they get engagement is by getting you angry, irritated, frustrated, passionate. But they're not interested in well-being. So it's a really interesting extra space at the moment where AI produces, I'm sure we've all used it, some amazing stuff, both personally for your productivity and ease, also evaluating, you know, how teams are doing. Are they flourishing or are they floundering? But also the question is, you know, what is AI going to do to my job? You know, there's this thing about, well, am I going to become redundant with these magical robots coming to take over our workplace? So it's producing some amazing solutions for the issues that we're having, but it's also adding some extra concerns that people are grappling with in a really kind of new world that we've not really seen before.
Yeah, I completely in, and I think there's some research currently showing that around 60% of people are saying that, AI is helping relieve stress related issues. However, like you were saying, it comes with its own sort of new mix of stresses off the side of it as well. So it is that double edged sword approach. And I really like that way of sort of describing around how AI can help, but we also need to be mindful of actually the other stresses or potentially new stresses that it could bring. Martin, what about your thoughts and some of the challenges around employee well-being and support?
So some of the challenges is as Dr. Phil's alluded to, with the pressures around getting work done and be feeling overworked as well as undervalued. And so we are looking at producing kind of rewards packages, look at the complete picture. Some of our staff actually live in the marinas that we own and operate, and therefore they have discounted mooring fees. So that's part of their rewards package. But actually, we don't promote that. We don't show them that that's part of what we give them as a business. And so we're looking at, trying to look at reward packages and things like that, just to kind of show people how much we do value their abilities to do. Personally, I was a bit of a skeptic when it came to AI and the introduction of AI technology. Um, I'm still kind of a little bit on the fence in terms of how to use it, but when it comes to writing things like standard operating procedures, I've been running payroll for 30 years, so I can do it with my eyes shut and my hands tied behind my back. But then when I'm being asked to write a standard operating procedure for setting up a new starter or processing a pension setup, I kind of freeze and I think, what do I do here? How do I write this? How do you literally write step-by-step guide to making a cup of tea? And that kind of pressure you can have self-induced,
Mhm.
and therefore using AI to kind of reduce that pressure, and also reduce the amount of time it takes to produce an SOP or a training package or something along those lines. So yeah, it is, the pressure's there, and a lot of it is unseen and untapped, and the potential for AI to actually help that, I can see, even as a skeptic, being promoted and being used well. Yeah, I'm getting there.
Getting there, amazing. And I think that's, as AI develops and when organizations start to integrate it more and use it more, all of these concerns that people might have are going to sort of be churned up, I think, for people. And for me, I think it's really, really important that organizations are putting that support and that structure in place to say, look, AI is here, we're using it. It can help you in so many amazing ways, whether it's relieving pressure, making things quicker, simplifying things, or maybe even filling skills gaps you didn't know you had. So, for example, Excel, you can either be a pro in Excel, right? Or you can sort of maybe sort of get your way through it. Whereas AI is really, really helpful for that. So it relieves that pressure or stress of having to work with loads of data. Or maybe you're not comfortable with data. So it removes that stress and it then becomes really, really helpful. I suppose for me, for well-being, I think it's then thinking about, you know, what other sort of well-being risks might you be exposed to. So the information that it's generating or the conversation that you're maybe having with the AI tool that you're using, being mindful that it is a computer. It's as generative as the algorithm and all the data that goes behind it. It is a computer at the end of the day you're having a conversation with, so it's being mindful to still apply your critical thinking to what it's it's doing for you. And, it can be an amazing tool for doing things like, you know, hey, I just need a mindfulness exercise. I need 5 minutes to take myself away from the work that I'm doing. Can you help me can you generate your mindfulness exercise and work through it with me? It's amazing for things like that as well. So it can give people access to maybe support that they weren't able to access before, but it's being mindful as well that, apply the critical thinking to also the conversation that you're having. Um, so, yeah, are there any other sort of concerns around AI and the workplace and well-being that you think we should all start thinking about?
Think coming back to that point I made about, the people who are building AI may not have your well-being as their primary reason, then there are questions about whether that's the right way round. Because if AI is, supposed to make the world a better place, it really needs to start from that place of kind of ethical thinking about human values, compassion, empathy, connection, and making sure those are kind of front and center. Now, whether that's going to happen or not is a question because, who is driving this? Well, some of my clients in Silicon Valley are driving this. And, their companies are not always looking at the well-being of everybody rather than the bottom line. So that's kind of super important. We need to think about that. There are other issues that come into it, which is bias. So whatever the information, the data set the AI is being trained on, it will go, well, that's how the world is. And you probably know this from research. Most research is done on white young males or students in psychology universities, which are not representative of most demographics. And so it will come in, not intentionally, but it will come in with a degree of bias just from the data set that it's looked at. So being clear about that. UNESCO, I think, said that, with AI, if it's not a fair system, it's not a safe system. It's got to be fair. It's got to start from that place. So there's some quite big conversations. I mean, AI is extraordinary what it can do, but there are some pieces that we need to really think about how can we make sure if it's there to free us, that we get freed to do the things we want to do. We don't want it to take the creativity and the fun bits. That's the bit we want to do. We want it to do the dull stuff and to do it effectively. And the other thing, of course, with AI, I've just been doing some research and helping AI to create the research. And it hallucinates, as you may know, things that just aren't true. It says, this is a paper, and it quotes the paper, and you go, and that paper doesn't exist. It's just made it up. So we also need to remember it's still a machine. It's not always right. And to be cautious, thoughtful about it, like just as you said, Stu. One other thing I think is super interesting about AI is I've done some research into AI chatbots as therapists. So you were talking about mindfulness, and the really early research was just in like text, like 10, 20 years ago. So pre this kind of AI revolution that's happening now. But the findings are the same every time they do the studies, that people actually prefer talking to an AI than to a therapist. And the reasons they think are they don't think that AI is going to tell their wife about you. Their confidentiality is okay, or their partner. And that they're available, like you said, available 24/7, anytime, day or night. There for you. They're pretty well designed now. And you can access them anywhere in the world, independent really of cost. You don't have to have the money to go to a therapist. So there are some amazing pieces, and we just need to make sure we're kind of guiding this in the way that's most ethical, effective, and thoughtful to the human. And the other piece they often say in the research is we need to make sure that humans are still involved, that it's not just AIs, that humans are involved, not just in terms of the recipient, but there is some kind of human connection within that, not just making us all dependent on the robot.
Yeah, I agree with that, Phil. I had an occasion just a couple of days ago where we had an blanket email sent out to everybody, reminding us that some of our training packages might be expiring. The annual training things that need to be done. And one person took quite an insult to the way that email came across, and went to our CFO and had a complaint, made a complaint, and all that sort of stuff. And the CFO called me in, and I said, "What do you think? What do you think about it?" And I said, "Well, yeah, we do need to be reminded that training needs to be done, and we need to keep, on top of our annual training needs or 3 yearly training needs, whatever." I said, "But the email came out. It was produced by AI, albeit it was monitored by our one of our data specialists." And all I said was, all you need to do is actually humanize the language in that email, make it less brutal in terms of being forthright. Just humanize it. And he said, "I like that word." And he's gone away and spoke to the data specialist that produced it in the first place, making some changes, and softening the language so that you know the person receiving it doesn't feel like they've been chastised, that they haven't done their annual training, and they feel a bit more encouraged to do it rather than discouraged to do it.
I think that brings us nicely on to my next question, which is about Aquavista and how have you, Martin, and how have you been using AI to support then your teams within Aquavista? I'd really like to hear.
We have several different departments. So our customer services department, for instance, they use AI to help them with producing emails to customers, making notes on customers' files, even with those customers that may be lagging behind in their bills and things like that. It's a case of how do we promote, we value you as a customer, but you still need to pay us your fees and you still need to pay your bills. And in fact, one of our customer service team is severely dyslexic from the point of view that they would actually write a word backwards without knowing it. That's quite a severe state of dyslexia. So she now uses the AI technology that we've got to help her produce those emails. And then, she can look at it and then ask AI to make it less formal, and things like that. And so we're beginning to promote people, as I said right at the beginning, with those neurodiverse conditions, that it would be helpful to them. But also, what I'm looking at as data protection officer is the security of the information that comes out. And where is it being stored? How is it being managed from a cyber point of view, an IT point of view? I share my office with the IT managers, so I'm able to pin him down every now and again and say, "Look, we need to make sure this is secure." And so, there's lots of kind of layers to using AI. But one of the big things here is to help reduce the stress of producing, anything as simple as an email right up to SOPs, as I've already mentioned. And my HR manager colleague uses it now to help produce training plans. What used to take her 4 or 5 hours to produce now takes her 2 to 3 with the use of AI technology to help that.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I really like the example that you've shared for the colleague who's living with dyslexia or has dyslexia, because I think that's a really fantastic example of how AI can support colleagues, make work more accessible for colleagues as well. I think it also helps bridge a gap that potentially might be in the workplace. Were there any other sort of well-being concerns that you were noticing that made you think, well, um, let's explore AI tools and options in more detail?
The biggest one really is the work pressure and the having to constantly. I mean, my work desk next door, it looks like a pilot's cockpit. There, I've got 3 big monitors. I've got my phone, my laptop. I've got all sorts of other things, gadgets everywhere. And people think, "Oh, how are you doing that?" I've got a payroll system on one screen, an Excel spreadsheet on another screen. I've got my emails popping up on another screen. I've got WhatsApp messages, Teams calls, and it can be kind of overwhelming. And so, we're beginning to kind of try and bring in AI technology to reduce that overwhelming status in us. Training to understand what AI can do for me. I'm still a bit skeptical and still a bit on the fence, but I'm learning to kind of understand that actually it helps reduce my mental health pressure. That I sometimes it's self-induced. I kind of just want to get something done and produce something, but then actually I'm struggling because I kind of where's the steps and how do I produce the steps? So I'm beginning to understand that AI will be a help rather than a hindrance. But as I say, my DPO head on is still kind of what information are you giving that system for that system then to produce what you need to produce? And are we data secure? Are we, cyber safe, et cetera, et cetera? So there's lots of different layers that we're beginning to kind of understand. And one of the things I was talking to my HR manager colleague, and she said, "We learn from it, but we help it learn from us." And it's a two-way kind of conversation, if you like. Um, it seems a bit counterintuitive that you're having a conversation with a machine, as Dr. Phil has just alluded to, but actually, if we use it correctly, it will bring us back to what we want it to produce, and that is, a less stressed work day, and a good all round. You want to be able to go home at the end of the day feeling satisfied. You've done a good day's work. You haven't got anything hanging over you, which is going to mean you don't sleep very well tonight. And using those sorts of technology, I do use AI to help find emails in my um, thousands of emails database. Find me an email that talks about this particular subject or from this particular person. I do use it for that now, and I'm finding it very, very useful.
And that's one of the things I've noticed, and something we promote at Access. It's um, I call them like the hacks that you might not have known about, that you can get AI to help you, like searching through your emails. If you've got hundreds and hundreds of emails and you're looking for that one from 2 weeks ago, you can't remember the title. You definitely don't know what day and time it was sent, but you can use AI to help you find it. It's hacking your work day, right? And Dr. Phil, just to bring you in, if organizations are starting to think about, AI and well-being, what would your sort of advice be for their sort of first step into that world? What would they
But the
do?
Yeah, there's some amazing research that's already showing some extraordinary benefits from it, as long as it's done right. So there's one study they did where they because one of people's concern is AI going to be tracking how fast I'm typing? Have I sent enough emails? Is it going to be reporting on me, the spy in the cab? And people, reasonably are concerned about that because it could do that. But one of the studies they did was they got that data, but they didn't get it from individuals. They got it from the group. So the whole team. So it wasn't a specific person. And then they alerted, they said to the management, okay, we've noticed that team A are having many more, calls after 5 p.m. than team B, and this is something that needs to be looked at. And then the manager would look at that and go, what do we do to alert people to the fact this isn't healthy? So using that data at a kind of big level rather than a minute, focusing on a single person seems to be important. And the other thing they said with this was, uh, that it was transparent. Everybody knew what was being done and what wasn't being done, so they didn't feel like it was being done to them. They felt that they were included in the conversation. And I think these things are super important. That there are so many. Well, I think first of all, AI is here. There's no like I'm not using it. Well, you will be. Everyone is using it already. We will use it more at very, very early stages now. This is going to be a thing. It's just going to be a thing. So the question is not will we use AI, but how will we use AI? How do we set it up so that because some interesting phrases they're coming up with them. And one is called techno insecurity, which is the idea that tech will take your jobs, or you haven't caught up with the latest tech, or is tech watching you, all that kind of stuff. And we've got to kind of manage that so that people don't add an extra stress by having this stress reliever. Or the idea, and you said this, Martin, you feel like all you're doing is feeding the machine. You're having to give it more in data, more information, and then you become its robot, as it were. So making sure that all that stuff is taken care of is probably the first step before we go too much further into using AI. Is like really thinking, right, what are we trying to get from it? How do we make sure that we're using it rather than it's using us, or whoever's on the other end of that data? What are they doing with that data? So there are some big questions um, that need to be addressed, and hopefully they will be. But it's like the commercial interest has jumped ahead of any kind of regulation, which is often the case with new ideas, and there needs to be some kind of bringing in of reasonability and how we take care of this really, really extraordinary advance in a way that serves us.
Was there anything unexpected through your sort of exploration around bringing in AI? Was there anything unexpected that happened off the back of that, um, that you experienced at all?
I don't think unexpected. I think, things, sometimes caught us off guard at how easy things can be, and how quick AI learns from our habits and our language. So I can be writing an email, drafting up an email, and yeah, people tell me I write a good diplomatic email even if I've got to get a strong point across. Um, and then, but AI in the background is learning my language. And therefore, when I then say, well, can you now help me produce an email to the CEO about something that's data protection related, it would understand my language. And actually, when I read it back, I think, I would have said it quite like that, or I may have just tweaked a couple of words. So it catches you off guard. I wouldn't say it was surprising, because actually that's what AI is designed to do, is to learn from you, but also you learn from it, and you kind of just think about how easy then you can use the system. Um, and that again, it just reduces your mental fatigue. It reduces the stress that you put on yourself to think, how can I word this? How can I word this? And you kind of panic. You panic. And I'm now encouraging people in my capacity as mental health first aider as well, is just to breathe through it and understand that actually you can just take a breath, take a step back. Maybe, as you were alluding to earlier, Stu, about a well-being program, just to kind of just take 5 minutes away and do something different. And then you can then read back and see it from a fresher perspective. And it's very helpful. But yeah, kind of sometimes catches you off guard and you think, crumbs, how good is this technology? Um, and then, as Dr. Phil was saying, we talk about the making sure that it is right and is secure, and it is data safe, and that we do in-house. We make sure that our data is safe and secure. There are the right backdoor blocks, firewalls, that sort of thing. So I'm always contacting the IT team to make sure, we're not letting anything out of the bag. And everything that we do internally is safe. It's encrypted. So if somebody outside did manage to get hold of it, it wouldn't make any sense to them.
So just to sort of finalize as your sort of parting wisdom from you both, maybe. So for anyone watching who's inspired by what we're talking about when it comes to AI and well-being, what's one sort of concrete action that they could go away with this week and to help them start exploring AI and how it can improve well-being in their organization? What would that one action for both of you be? Dr. Phil, if you want to start.
I'm just trying to think what would be the first thing. I, and if you have no experience of it at all, I guess I would ask it some questions, some quite searching questions related to your thing. So let's say you're in charge of HR and well-being. Go, okay, the key thing with AI is to ask it the right question. So you'd say, my business is this. I have this many clients. These are the issues. Give me 3 solutions that you can suggest, and make it more complicated. Say, I want 5, emails I could send out, write them all. I want 10 social media posts, don't have to use them all, but just see what it can do. The other day I was doing a bit of research, and I wanted it to summarize a research paper or 2 research papers that I was involved in, just to make a blog about it. And I pressed the wrong button, And instead of it writing it, it made me a 5-minute podcast, right, of 2 AI people discussing the summary. And I was like, what's this? And it was amazing. They were like, oh, well, what do you think about these? It was impossible to distinguish it from 2 humans talking. And it was really engaging and really fascinating. And this is like the early stages of what it can do. So explore it and think, well, what could this do? And you will be surprised at what it can do. And at the same time, and keep on coming back to this, like it makes you kind of go, oh, wait a minute, this is a big thing here. We need to do more than just spell checking with it or improving our grammar. There is a lot of stuff here, and we need to be thoughtful about it, about the extraordinary possibility and how we take care of that.
Brilliant. And Martin, what would your concrete bit of action be?
Start small. Don't kind of go headlong into something with AI without really kind of just testing it. Draft an email. Get it to draft an email on a particular subject. And then you can kind of read it back, and then you begin to learn how to formalize language and create things. But don't be afraid of telling it what you need it to do. Because at the end of the day, when that email is sent or that report is produced or that SOP is written, it's still your work.
Mm.
And so you've got to be very happy with the work that it produces for you, as much as it's learning about how you work. So yes, but I would say start small. Start with small chunks and see how easy it becomes for you. That's what I'm doing with the database searching and the email searching. I'm beginning to now think now I can produce an SOP, and get AI to help me with that. So wish me luck next week when I start doing those.
Brilliant.
The other thing I'd add is with that is when you ask it to write an email, be playful with it and go, right, make it more diplomatic, make it clearer, make it a little bit more forthright, and just watch what it does. And it's really fascinating to see how it understands. And this is the new thing about AI. You don't have to explain what forthright or diplomatic means. It knows it. Or if you give it some examples of your email, saying, write it like this, and it will do it. And you're like, oh, that's really interesting. But as you say, always check it, make sure it's doing what you want it to do, because there are glitches still in the system at this point. But yeah, the possibilities are extraordinary. We just need to make sure that it's working for us rather than we're working for it.
Yeah, completely. So start small, and start small, but don't be afraid to explore. And I think there's something I've played around with is kind of what you linking to what both of you were saying around writing emails. I know I'm quite a wordy person in life. I'm just quite wordy. I like to write a wordy email. But we're all busy people. Not everyone's got the time to read a really long email. So AI is an amazing thing to give it a persona. I tell it I write really wordy emails, but this needs to go to this group of people, and actually they might not have the time. Can you help me restructure it in a way? And it takes the stress out of it for me, thinking about what I'm saying and how I'm saying it. Does it really, really quickly, gets the message over to, the people that need it. So, yeah, it can be fantastic. So thank you both for joining me today and having this conversation. We've covered a lot of ground from, what is well-being in the workplace? How are we using AI? What can we start thinking about doing and how it can start helping colleagues? A huge thank you. Thanks for sharing your insight and sharing your thoughts. It's been great. And if anyone watching is curious about AI, start exploring. And if your organization is thinking about bringing AI to help support their wellbeing strategy, you can take a look at our website where there's some resources available for you. So yes, good luck on your wellbeing journeys. And thank you both for joining me today.